Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how you guys can get this soft, smoky, blown out look with a neutral palette. If you want to see how to get the look, keep on watching. So I'm starting off with my beautiful model Sana, and I'm just prepping her skin with a bit of rose spray and just blending that into the skin. It helps with redness and basically getting the skin prepped, and it's good for hydration because Sana has very dry skin. So for me, I like to start off with the eyebrows first. I feel like they frame the face and they help add more structure. So I generally start off with brushing the brows first so that the hairs are in the right place, and then working my way from the outer brow into the inner corner. For this, I'm just using some eyeshadow and just basically layering it on until I'm happy. And as you can see, Sana has defined brows, so it's not hard work, thank God. A very important step when defining the brows is cleaning up the brows, and this means using a foundation, concealer, eye primer, whatever it is, and basically going underneath the brow like I'm doing right now and cleaning it up so it's got a very nice sharp line. I generally prefer to use something closer to the skin and then just setting that with a translucent powder so that the concealer that I've used does not basically smudge or have any creases. To start with the eyeshadow, I'm using a soft terracotta colour, and I'm using that as my transitional colour and working my way up. I'm using fluffy brushes, multiple different brushes, and just diffusing that in circular motions back and forward so that it's not very harsh but very soft and blown out. As it is a transitional colour, it doesn't have to be harsh at all because we're going to go in with darker colours later. For me, this next step is highly important, and it's actually one of my favourite steps to do, and this is actually placing the highlight underneath the brow bone. It creates a guideline for me as to how far I need that transitional colour to be. I then can go in with a smaller defined brush and diffuse those edges together so that there's no harsh line and it looks like it's a seamless blend between the two. Now going in with a darker colour and a more precise brush, I'm actually going to start layering in a dark chocolate brown and bringing this across the eye, and I'm only placing this into the crease. So as you guys can probably see, that transitional colour is still above the crease. The purpose of the darker colour is to add more structure and definition to the eye, hence why it's just placed within the crease or the socket as some people may like to call it. I use circular motions and back and forth motions, and what this actually does is the back and forth motion actually adds more colour where you want it, whereas the circular motions that I often use will basically blend out and diffuse that colour, so it means less blending at the end. I'm now actually going to cut the crease. Now majority of you will know what cutting the crease means. For anyone that doesn't, it essentially means using any eye primer, any foundation, concealer, whatever it may be, and you're cutting that by placing it onto the eyelid so you have a sharp defined surface as to where you want to place any pigment, any glitter, any lighter eyeshadow, but it will just be very sharp and defined, hence why it's called cutting the crease. I'm now going to actually go in with that transitional colour and place it onto the eyelid first on the outer corner before I go in with the darker colour, because this will actually make your eyeshadow blending a lot smoother and it will actually reduce the work that you have to do. Using back and forth swipey motions, I'm now going to actually add in that darker colour that we used into the socket into the outer V of the eye. But I'm not taking it as far out as where we placed that lighter colour on the eyelid. It's just going to basically be a gradual smooth blend. Going in with the eyelid colour, I'm now using a flat brush so that I have more control and I can actually pat on the amount of colour that I want, because the colour I am using is quite soft, so I really want to be able to build up that colour. Now going in with the same brushes that I've used, I'm actually going to add that soft terracotta colour and blend it into the nude so that again it blends in very nicely. I'm now going to basically go in and tweak a little bit by adding a bit of that darkness back into the outer corner. When you do apply eyeshadows throughout the eyes, sometimes the colours do get a little bit lost, so you will always have to go back and add more pigment or add more colour where you feel like it's softened down. I then go on to add the inner corner highlights because I want to see the eyes pop and I can kind of get an idea of how the eye makeup's looking. Next, I'm going to go in and actually add a thin line of gel liner. It could be any gel liner, but it's black. I prefer to use black so it's a little bit more of a contrast. You can go in with brown if you want it more softer. And using a small precision brush, I'm actually going to blend that out and soften it so it looks like it's a gradual smudge and it's very diffused. There's no definition and it's not harsh. Going back and forth, layering it up, building up pigment. Once I'm happy with how it looks, I then actually go on and proceed to pat that on with some black eyeshadow. But the key here is not to take that black eyeshadow far up to where you've diffused it, but keep it more towards the roots of the lashes. That way it looks like it's going from dark to light. Whereas if you're going to take it fully high up, it's just going to look again like a thick blended black liner, whereas where it's dark to light, it will look like it's diffusing into nothing. Again, like I said previously just now, you will always end up going back in and tweaking bits and bobs. As you can see, I've actually built up the outer corner darkness and added more inner corner highlight, because you can see with the gel liner it was kind of disappearing, so I wanted to build up the intensity again. Now I've cleaned up any of the mess that we've got on her face, and we're going to proceed to actually moving on to the skin. In order to do that, I've again sprayed some Fix Plus, and I'm actually color correcting because Sana actually does have hyperpigmentation. Even though she's got beautiful skin, she has darkness around the eyes, so orange is going to cancel that out, because if I just directly go in with foundation, which I'm doing right now and I'm patting it in, it will actually peep through later on. So the orange is going to counteract that darkness, the blue and purple she has under her eyes. Because she is fairer, it generally tends to be a lot darker and show more. So around the brows, to make sure that I don't get anything onto the eyebrows, I actually like to use a small synthetic brush and just swipe it around. Sana has dry skin, as I mentioned in the beginning, so I like to use something that's a little bit more creamy on her, and that's going to be very hydrating rather than a matte finish, because her skin is actually going to absorb any of the oils in that foundation. Using the small brush, I'm just going around any of the areas and basically just tweaking it until everything is blended and I am happy. With concealer, I like to take that from the inner corner right underneath the eye and pull it down from the sides of the nose, and you actually see I like to use multiple layers of concealer to build up that brightness rather than using one thick layer, and that's actually the key. So you can actually build up contrast on the face without it looking very heavy. Underneath the eye, I actually use more of a peachy concealer to again counteract that darkness. Like I said, bringing it down in almost like that V shape, like to blend it out into the foundation before I add more concealer in. So as you're probably able to see, Sana's darkness is still peeping through, hence why I've gone in with a second layer of concealer and I'm patting that in. So when you pat in concealer, it actually holds it in place rather than swiping and moving the product around. Using a yellow based concealer and placing that on the high points of the face, so again down the bridge of the nose, the forehead, under the contours, the chin, above the cupid's bow, and a little bit in that dip or underneath Sana's eye to add brightness. The undertones of her skin are yellow, hence why I can use it around the face, whereas the salmony colour concealer, which was used to correct and brighten the eye, if I place that same concealer on the face, it would give a pink hue because that is not her undertone. Once I'm happy, I can then actually go in with the yellow concealer under her eye, because yellow actually further brightens. It brightens a lot more than a pink colour will. Now that I've added in the highlights, I basically want to add structure back into the face. So in order to do that, I'm basically going to be adding in some warmth, and this would be on the tops of the cheekbones, the forehead, basically anywhere the sun would naturally hit, before I go in with a darker contour colour to add the shadows. I'm going to be using a liquid bronzer in order to do this before I go in with a cream contour colour. Where I need to add more definition, I'll go in with a darker colour. For the nose, I like to use a smaller brush and create this very thin lines. Always remember guys, the thinner the lines, the thinner the nose will look. The wider the lines you use, the actual bigger your nose will look. Once I've blended that all out and I'm happy, I can then step back and see that I want to add further contrast, so I've gone back in with that yellow concealer and added it again underneath. Now that I've finished with my creamy products, I'm basically going to be adding on some translucent powder just onto the areas of the face where I want to lock in the concealer and the foundation. So I'm going to be using a fluffy brush and I'm just going to be patting in some Lauramercier Translucent powder underneath the eyes, underneath the cheekbones, anywhere I'm not going to be adding in any bronzing powders or contour colours. Sana has dry skin, so I don't necessarily want to bake for long. I just want to pat in a thin layer so that any of the creams and oils are absorbed through the powder, but enough so that it basically doesn't dry her under eyes out. If you do have dry skin, do be cautious when baking, because too much powder, especially under the eyes, will dry out. I'm now going in with the bronzer and basically placing it anywhere we've placed the contours. That's the cheekbones, at the top of the forehead, down the sides of the nose. Using a small fluffy brush, I'm now basically going to be contouring the nose just down the side. Sana has a small nose anyway, but it's just so that the warmth blends and matches the rest of the face. If you actually add brown under the lip, it will actually create more of a fuller appearance, because it will create the shadow under the lip, almost looking like the lip is overflowing. It's very plump and in between the cupid's bow, so it will give more definition to your lip. As previously mentioned, Sana has very dry skin, so I don't want to bake for long. I'm actually now dusting off any of the powder
Using my bronzer brush, I'm going to leave whatever left on the brush and just go over those areas, trying to blend them in to where we've dusted off the baking, so that way there's no harsh line and the transition is very smooth.
And using a soft brush, I'm just blending everything. Now moving on to my favourite bit, I absolutely love blusher. I think it makes a big difference. I'm trying to keep the blusher mainly on the apples of the cheek because I want to create the illusion that Sana has fuller cheeks. The higher you take the blusher, the more it will actually contour your cheeks and make the face look slimmer, which I don't necessarily want to do for Sana's face.
Moving back to the eyes, I'm basically going to be adding a soft brown colour into Sana's eyes, and that's just before I go in with underneath eyeshadow because I want to basically darken the eyes. Sana does have big eyes. If you have small eyes, you can avoid this step, but I just want to do it so that it ties in with the eye look. And then I'm going to be using the soft terracotta colour that we used in the very beginning and basically work this underneath the eyes. So starting from the roots of the lash, as you guys can see, working my way downwards. Once I'm happy with that, I will then basically go in with that dark outer corner chocolate brown and add that right by the roots of the lashes, just so that it mimics basically what we have on top of the eye, so it's darker to light, as you guys can see. Do be patient with this step. You don't need to go very quickly. Some people I find tend to take the eyeshadow too low or too dark all the way down. Work with the lighter colour first and then go in with the darker colour, and then as you guys can see, once I've done that, I can then basically match out the outer corner and blend it all in together. To add a pop back into the eyes, I'm basically going to be retouching that inner corner highlight before I proceed to the rest of the face. So I've added on the top of the cheekbones, the nose, and a little bit down the cheek as well, and then using a clean fluffy brush and patting in everything together before moving on to the lips.
Moving on to lips, starting with a lip liner. I'm actually going to define Sana's lips. Sana wants more of an overdrawn lip, so I'm slightly going outside her natural lip line and creating the shape harshly, then going in with the lip brush and actually diffusing that lip liner into her natural lip. Now I actually want the lips to be very nude for this, almost washed out, so the focus mainly remains on her eyes. So what I've actually done is, once I've blended out the lip liner, I've basically added a peachy soft nude that is ever so slightly darker than her natural skin color, so you can still see it but it's not overpowering her face. All I need to do was add on some mascara and then place lashes on top. So with lashes, let the glue dry down a little bit, add some onto the lash band and then place them on the eye. I like to place it from the middle and then adjust the edges both from the end and the inner corner. Once I'm happy with the lashes stuck down and I know they're not going to move, I then go in with liquid eyeliner and place it above the lash band and onto the lash band, so you can't see where the lash is actually sitting on the eye and it blends in with that diffuse line. And then I go in with mascara on the bottom lashes. Once that's all done, I like to hydrate the skin because we've used a lot of powders on her skin and built up a lot of layers. So again, I've sprayed that rose spray so that it softens down those layers and adds hydration back in. And then using a clean fluffy brush, I've dusted off anywhere I see any fallout or just softened any lines that I see, and that is it. That completes the look. Let me know what you guys think, what you guys want to see. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. I will see you in my next video. Stay tuned guys. Bye bye.